need to use the box to get home.
The road you're looking for is a grain of sand on an infinite beach.
Caitlin Tyrrell with Screen Rant.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi.
This show is phenomenal. Like every twist and turn, I was so hooked the entire way through. I loved
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
So cool.
Blake, my first question is for you. What was it like with the adaptation process of bringing the book to the screen?
Oh, it was the coolest and hardest thing I've ever gotten to do. It felt a little bit like leaping off a cliff and seeing if the parachute will open. I have had a couple things made and have been involved to varying degrees on those, but they were never like my thing where every choice is something that I'm behind and supportive of. And this was special enough that I wanted to take that chance here. And it was a wild ride. It was a roller coaster. And I still kind of can't believe I got to do it.
You pull it off very, very well.
Oh, thank you.
And then, Matt, you worked on other projects that deal with the multiverse. How does Dark Matter stand out from something like Spider-Man No Way Home?
Well, I mean, this to me is a movie about all of us. You know, this is a very grounded group of characters, and despite the number of worlds, you know, it lives in our world, and I think that's part of the appeal of it. Originally, to me as a reader, was how easily I could identify with these characters. You know, it isn't in a universe inhabited by superheroes, which we all love, but this is our world, and I think that creates a different experience for the viewer. So it comes with this sci-fi conceit, but it's really a very grounded story about a man trying to come to terms with who he is and the choices he made, and the mistakes he made, and so I see it as a cousin of all of that, but in a very different context.
I completely agree. I love the humanity of it. That was probably the most interesting part to me, of like you're exploring humanity with this sci-fi like layer on top of it. So
Exactly.
Very, very
Exactly.
And then Blake, what was it about the multiverse that you were excited to explore that maybe sets it apart from other sci-fi interpretations?
I became interested in quantum mechanics shortly after I graduated from college. Must be said, I took as few math and science courses as possible, steered way clear of all that. It was all English for me. But I found as I was beginning my writing career that writing straight thrillers is tricky. Like there's just so much you can do, but when you add a speculative component, whether it's like AI, quantum mechanics, gene editing, it opens the story up, and it lets you, in addition to talking about the characters you're focusing on, it lets you talk about the world that we're living in now. So I started like really delving into quantum mechanics and trying to understand it. I did it for about 10 years before I started writing the book. And when I wrote the book, there wasn't like a lot of, the multiverse wasn't like ubiquitous like it is today. And it was funny, as I wrote the book and we were trying to get the thing going, and then there's another movie about the multiverse, there's another show, there's this, and it's like, when we do this, we have to do everything we can to set ourselves apart from that. And the way that we tried to do that was, yes, it's a sci-fi premise, but it's about human characters. And that was our guiding light all the way through. Like, for all of the world building, for all of the speculative sci-fi flashbangs, it's like, no, it's about the characters. And as long as we keep our focus on that, then we have a chance of hopefully standing out in a kind of a crowded space.
I love it. And then can you both talk to me a little bit about the casting process and bringing Joel on board, not just as the star, but as an executive producer as well?
So it was a really
I like it when Blake
it was a fascinating process, because we were developing the show and it was going well. We had scripts and it was like time to cast, and we had like not really even begun to think about Jason's when we got an incoming call that Joel Edgerton had read the book and heard there was a show maybe coming together and wanted to chat. And we were like, seriously? That's amazing. So we jumped on this a Zoom with Joel. I think we had 2 of them. And there were just these lovely, wide-ranging conversations about life and science. And it just was immediately apparent that we saw this show the same way. And beyond that he was this sort of everyman and an incredible, nuanced actor. And I just remember, I think we talked after the first Zoom, and it was like, with Joel, we can make a real human drama. That's what I was saying a minute ago about how do you set yourself apart when it's in a wide field of speculative stuff. And that's how. Someone like that. And we got Joel. And then once the show was greenlit, immediately we start thinking about Daniela, and our wonderful casting director, Mary Renew, had sent us a list, and like Jennifer Connelly was on it. And we were like, seriously? I mean, do you think she would?
Would she do this?
Would she do this? And we sent scripts, and then suddenly on a Zoom with Jennifer talking about Daniela, and then
it's amazing when you do these, you meet with great actors, and it becomes unintentionally, I mean, because you're just so excited to meet these people that you've admired, and so you're not really, at least my experience of it, you're not looking at it as like an audition or anything like that. You're meeting them, and what happens in those meetings is you realize, oh, they're taking over these characters in front of me and embodying them in a way that I actually didn't even think of. And you start to see kind of the brilliance of them, that they bring their own read and interpretation of these characters. And with both of them, you began to feel it right away. And it as brilliantly as any character is on the page, when that character is then taken over by an actor, it's given this kind of magical life. And I remember we were just sort of in awe of what had happened to Jason and Daniela, through the avatars of these great actors. It was a really cool process.
Oh, that's so cool. And then, Blake, one of the things I found really interesting about this is because it's such a human story, it almost feels like there isn't inherently a villain. It's more about bad choices. Was that something you were very purposeful when you were telling the story, not to try and villainize any of the characters?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would full credit to Joel, who was always of the mind that Jason 2 is not a villain. He's much more of a villain in the book than he is in the show. In the way, I mean, like, it's so interesting, and it goes to what we're talking about with getting actors like this, like in the book. And I kind of cringe a little bit now because I know how that last scene with them is written, and it's very different in the show, and that's because of Joel. He found the humanity of Jason 2, and it makes him such a more dimensional character. And when you make him dimensional, then it does that trick of showing you that all of these versions of Jason are just the same entity with these slight little deviations based on the choices we've made.
Yeah.
And then is there a world maybe that you didn't get to explore from the book that didn't make it into the show, or maybe a world that you weren't able to really dig into in the show that you would have liked to explore more?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, there are more worlds in the show than there are in the book. And there's one, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's at the top of episode 5 that was not in the book and got to really just, but it was like in a journal of mine, because I had this, I journal when I'm writing and have all these other notes, and there was a world that didn't make the book, but I was like, we have time, let's do this. And I think the world where that Amanda finally visits towards the end, without being spoilery, is one we got to really explore in the show that was only hinted at in the book.
I love it. Thank you guys both so much for taking the time to talk to me today. This show's phenomenal. I can't wait for more people to see it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very
so
much.
Lovely
Good talking to you.
Everything has changed. I don't know, it sounds like he's crazy. I'm not crazy.